Hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you for joining me. This is Dev Diary 4 for European Universalis 5 Discovery. Let's talk about colonization. So, the key things about colonization in EU5 that are different is that the costs are higher, some elements of it are slower and more realistic, and there's more modeled competition between the different players, which seems really cool. So, to get more precise, let's keep going. Firstly, new geopolitical tab, which is cool. Here is the exploration tab of it, and you can see that you have to launch expeditions. Explorations. And these explorations have characters that lead them, which can be historical or can not be, which is cool. They have to happen within your colonial range, and they can be over sea or over land. Now, it takes a innovation from or a tech, what are these called? Advance. It takes an advance from the Age of Discovery, Second Age, in order to do open sea exploration. So it's just going to be closer to home exploration until then, which is cool. And yeah, it costs money and sailors or manpower, depending on whether it's overland or oversea, to launch one of these explorations. And then they go out into the world and they start trying to find stuff. Now, of course, you know where the stuff is, which you can leverage to your advantage, I'm sure. I wonder if the AI explores like a player, like knowing where stuff is. Probably does. It explores in a way that makes sense given what... Well, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, so then you need to provide goods for the expedition, which is cool. The stuff has to be available in the local market. Lumber, tools, nail supplies, cloth, and liquor. Which all seems logical as things that you would need. And so you can see the construction one here in Porto. It takes a certain amount of time. It won't progress if you don't have the goods. So this is something you're going to want to make sure you have available in your market. It costs stuff and takes stuff based on the distance, which makes sense, and the terrain being explored. So harsh open seas, more difficult to traverse than coastline. Again, makes sense. Then there's the monthly progress. Some advances boost this up. Being in the Age of Discovery boost this up. Explorer. I'm not sure what that means. Probably skill, maybe? No, because this is skill. Maybe just having an explorer. Maybe it means they're a historical explorer. Maybe they have a trait. Yeah, I bet that's what it is. I bet that's what it is. I bet it's this trait on the Explorer called Explorer. And here is the effect of the Age of Discovery. We get monthly progress, control impact on war score, expected army size. Now, expected army size is an interesting stat. I guess that's that your nobles are going to be mad if your army isn't at least that big, because they're like, we need to be more strong to defend ourselves, perhaps. Not sure. Antagonism, that's bad boy, or aggressive expansion, or infamy, I believe. And religion influence. So I assume that means taking land off someone of the same religion is more impactful against other members of... Sorry, taking someone off a religion, land off someone of a religion is more impactful of other members of that religion in this age, which makes sense. This being the era... I mean, the previous era as well, but an era of some religious conflict for sure. So exploration is never without risk. There's a bunch of events and they can affect your home stuff as well. They can shift societal values, which is interesting. Or they can just be about, you know, how you actually traverse, which is cool. Now, one of the cool things is, I think it says it here. Yeah. So new terrain is not discovered until exploration is actually completed and the voyagers return home, which makes total sense, right? If they don't make it home, I mean, you're not going to learn about that stuff that they found. Which I like. I also like that it's way more impactful and more involved. You know, this takes much more doing than in previous games, I think. When new lands are discovered, the next step is establishing colonies. So then you have this, right? You create charters, and when you make a charter, you choose where people are going to go both from and to. And then you also have you can have a conflict. So you have to send people, it costs money, monthly maintenance costs. You have to send the people, and then there is this this push and pull. But first off, you have to increase your colonial migration, so you have a balance between outward societal value and inward. Now, this is interesting because this is one where it genuinely seems really impactful. Someone with outward maxed out has 4 times higher modifier on monthly colonial migration, right? 50% versus 200%. Crazy, crazy, crazy difference. And they get more diplomatic capacity. Language influence minus 50%, which I assume means if you take an action against a culture or a nation that speaks language X, other nations that speak language X get 50% less annoyed, specifically because of the impact of the culture, of the language influence. which makes sense. This is a similar system to EU4, as far as I understand it, although it's language here rather than culture, although perhaps culture is separate. But 25% crown power. I don't know what cultural tradition is, but 25% crown power seems really big to be sacrificing in order to do your colonial game. So there's a genuine sacrifice to focusing on sending people far afield and focusing on the global rather than focusing inward. I like that. This is a real cost, a trade-off, not making colonization just a bit of a no-brainer. Very cool, very cool. Now, as they say, yes, it takes loads of time. It can take decades or even centuries to materialize the true value here. Which will motivate you to try and just take the most valuable spots. You know, obviously there's gold to be had in some places, and people might try and rush towards that before they go further afield, which makes sense. And then here's the thing about competing. So here you can see that the papal states showed up first. They've got more progress, but Portugal is making headway really quite fast. In order to get control, you have to have at least 1,000 people, and you have to have 36% of all the people there to be of your culture and religion. I think it's and religion. Yes. Your primary or accepted culture and 36% of your nation's religion. So obviously if there's a big conflict like this, that's going to be it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging. There are various historical events, including a Treaty of Tordesillas equivalent, which is pretty cool. I wonder how that works if you're a third party. But yeah, you know the Treaty of Tordesillas, Spain and, as seen in Shogun, but Spain and Portugal dividing the world up amongst themselves under the guidance of the Pope. So things like that can happen again, which I think is interesting. It's very interesting how that could work and which way the chips fall. As a powerful Catholic Spain, very tempting as a first campaign, to be sure. The powerful Catholic Spain would be very interesting. So yes, because you need that 36%, somewhere with natives takes way longer to do. And once it is colonized, those natives become tribesmen pops, which are then difficult to promote compared to peasants. So you need to figure out how you want to play that. And then you can create a colonial subject, play as that colonial subject, which is an interesting option. I wonder how that will go. I imagine all of these play as someone later on. I feel this in Ambanar as well. Anytime you're starting later than the end date, it just feels like you're behind the curve, but you can integrate into an existing colonial subject or retain direct control. Now, what that seems interesting is that you can control the boundaries of your colonial subjects now, it feels like, because you're choosing when you want to fold into an existing colonial subject or make a new one, which is pretty cool. I wonder what happens if you just make a ton of tiny ones. Do they have like maxed out control in all their provinces because it's their capital? Could be a little broken. Probably would use up too much of your diplomatic cap, I imagine. But if you wanted to just set up a small colonial empire of like 10 or 12 provinces, if you made all 12 of them individual subjects, are they going to get base income and things? They're each going to get their own cabinet. Could be interesting. So, yeah, the choice is yours, and that's going to be interesting. So things like, if you're England, do you get direct control over Greenland because it's not that far away? But then you make a colonial subject in Canada. It's going to be interesting. We'll have to see how the control stats shake out, basically. And then you can build stuff to get people to be more likely to migrate there. Makes sense. Every nation can colonize. Cool. Very, very cool. If you find non-European countries colonizing, you can set AI colonization to only European nations when starting a game. I would like it to be gated behind some kind of institution, because if Japan just always shows up in America, that would be kind of immersion breaking, wouldn't it? But I don't know, it's more realistic for that to be a possibility, assuming Japan hits certain conditions that make sense in terms of like naval tech being a big one. Interesting. Colonial subjects and colonial trade. So when you have a subject, if they're loyal, you can build stuff in them. You can build buildings and roads. You can increase their RGO, their resource gathering operation levels. So it gives you wealth. Now, by default, they give you 2.5% of monthly income from all sources. That's not much. That's not much, is it? It's the manpower, doesn't say how much. Lots of their trade advantage and trade capacity, and you can increase it by sacrificing some of their loyalty, which is cool. Very cool. They will join all defensive and offensive wars, and you can siphon income and press sailors. Now, It doesn't seem like very much money, but basically, yeah, it's about trade, I think. Trade is the main way that these make money, which is the same in EU4, and it's the same in real life as well. So, well, apart from the gold fleets, I wonder if gold fleets are still a thing. Interesting. Interesting. And yes, they're not passive. They have their own cabinet. They do that stuff. They focus on building development and control locally, which is cool. And you can see the massive increase in development that's present in the New World in this game that was run till 1762. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yes, another Chapel comic. Simulationist approach. But you know exactly where the big continent full of gold is. I think this is promising. I'm really curious to know how this goes. Like, if you're not the leader, aren't you going to just lose all of these races? Which seems disheartening. Or I guess you have to grab some kind of less valuable seeming lands, which are less likely to be fought over. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Of course, as the player, when you're not playing as like a tiny country, you're usually going to probably be able to be ahead of the curve on these things, but it's going to be interesting. I'm also really interested to see how this plays out, as well as a couple of the other situations they mention, Columbian Exchange and Colonial Revolution, which I assume is, you know, late game kind of Spain threatening to fall apart, or, you know, Spain equivalent. It'll be interesting. Very interesting to see how that plays out. Shorter one today. Thank you so very much for watching. I'll see you next time for Religious and Culture.